It's another Superwoman Wednesday. I've got a Superwoman story. We had a Superwoman session, and we just got cool from there, right? She didn't become one of my clients, but she was somebody that I felt, that I made a connection with that could help me in my business. And so, yeah, I keep her close to the chest, but I'm going to share her with y'all today. Hey, Alyssa.
It's so great to be here chatting with you.
And I'm excited to hear this story because, as you Superwomen know, like, I don't know the stories, the backgrounds that they're going to tell you before they tell you. I'm kind of hearing it when you're hearing it. And so what went on?
I'm a mom to two awesome kids. I have an 8-year-old daughter named Paige and a 1-year-old son named Slade. And I feel like sometimes in the world of motherhood, those things of who you are get lost. I spent a long time being lost. Blaine and I get married, like we're young and I'm in my early 20s. He's in his mid 20s. We get married. And at that point, he owned his own semi truck and was trucking. So he'd go from Canada to the US and back. So I was at home on my own. He was gone, like, I don't know, 5 to 7 days a week, just depending. And we ran our own company, did our own thing, did our own books, the huge responsibilities that come with a company, a corporation, right? So we're doing our thing. And then we decide we want to start a family. So we have Paige and he's still gone all the time. So we were home for a week and then he's got to go back to work, right? If you're not working, you're not making money. So he goes back to work, and I honestly went into motherhood like, this is what I want. I've wanted this for so long. I've never wanted to be anything but a mom. So like, this is a huge goal for me. I'm going to be great. It never even dawned on me that maybe it might not be as easy as I thought. Like, that thought didn't even register to me until I was in the throes of motherhood with a baby who didn't sleep ever, who cried all the time. I was by myself because Blaine was away working. So it became this really interesting kind of struggle where I went like, okay, what are we going to do here? Or how am I supposed to make this through? So looking back, and with my psych nurse history, I should have seen this, but hindsight is always 2020, right? I struggled with postpartum depression for the first years of Paige's life. I was sleep deprived and miserable and depressed and crying all the time. And like, and nobody in my life said to me like, hey, what's going on? Because I kept it hidden from everybody too. Like, I cried at home behind closed doors. I didn't ask for help. I just figured this was a normal part of being a mom. So then I guess, I come out of that. We had tried for years to have another baby. When Paige was about 2, we decided we were ready to have another baby. Couldn't get pregnant. I got told by doctors, we don't know, you just can't have more kids. So secondary infertility it is. At that point, Blaine was still on the road, and I was like, I had started working from home when Paige was a year old. It really helped kind of pull me out of the depressive episodes I was having, because it made me feel like it had a purpose that was more than just changing diapers and cleaning up messes, right? So it gave me a little bit. It started as a little like 5 hours a month kind of deal, and then moved on from there. So it's been great over the years. I was able to build it to a full-time career now, but it did take time. And we had gotten kind of to the point where it took me a long time to accept that we weren't going to have more kids. When I say that I have a type A personality, it is like type A, if I have a plan and it doesn't happen, it's devastating to my life.
Right.
Super hard to accept that, this is probably not going to happen, right? So then fast forward, we moved to a different place, kind of get to a different stage in our life. We had accepted that, hey, we're not going to have more kids. So what does our life look like? We're going to be grateful because there's lots of people that don't get the opportunity to have one. And then we moved, and of course, moving comes with new doctors and new family doctor and all that stuff, right? So family doctor I'm seeing here goes like, why has nobody done anything? Like, this isn't healthy for your body to not be doing the things it's supposed to be. Like, somebody should have looked into this. And we find out that all this time we could have had kids with the use of a couple of pills. So we sat down, and like, Blaine's going to be, he'll be 39 this year, and I'm going to be 33, and both of us. So this was like 2 years ago now we found this out, but we're sitting there going like, Like Blaine's like, I'm getting close to 40. Like, how do you feel about it? And I was like, you know what? I said, no. I said, because mentally, I was like, I don't think I could take the losses that sometimes come with fertility. And I was like, so no, I said, I'm finally to a place where I feel like content with the decision we made. I think we just don't mess with things. And I kid you not, no sooner did we decide that and we got pregnant with Slade.
That is bananas. But listen, wait, I want to go back.
Okay.
Because you touched on quite a few things, and that, like, the little bit that you shared is a lot. Like, that's a lot. You talked about postpartum depression. It just kept going. Like, that wasn't even a whole thing. Like, right? That was a thing within itself. And then have to go through the infertility, or well, before infertility, the whole not being able to, or the idea of not being able to have another child, and then into the infertility. But it was something that you said when you were talking about having your daughter, that I was just like, oh man, I so relate to that. And it was when you were saying how your husband was gone a lot on, with his business, right? And there you were, brand new mom, not knowing what motherhood really entailed, and boom, doing it yourself, by yourself, for real, because he's gone. And my story is a little similar in the respect that my daughter's father, it was his idea that we have a baby, right? And I was a young girl too. I was young. I hadn't turned 20 yet. I was 19. Pregnant in December, had my daughter in September. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. I got pregnant in December and had Paige in September too.
Too funny.
No kidding. Her birthday's the 8th.
So it was happening to us at the same damn time, right? And so so he asked me to have her. And, just like a dumb broad, I was just like, okay, right? It's like, and my thinking was, well, I've had to take care of somebody's baby all my life, pretty much. And so, I mean, this ain't going to be a big deal. Okay, it's a baby. I can do this. Girl. Yeah, no, I wasn't taking care of anybody. I was babysitting. I was watching these kids, like, because it was this thing where, like, I was forced to babysit, should I say?
The
like
older kid built-in babysitter phenomenon. Yeah, yes, I have 2 younger sisters too. I get that.
Yeah, so everywhere I went, he went. People literally would think like I had children, because it was just like I would be like, yeah, I can't sit in the house and watch kids too. Like, I got to be outside. And so anyway, that thinking, it was just kind of like, it was a rude awakening, because motherhood is, like you said, so much more than that, right? And my daughter's father, he just decided he didn't want to be here, so that's where our difference is, like, because it was like, wait a minute. You asked me to have this baby, and now you want to be gone? Excuse me. I'm sorry. My eyes, is allergy season.
That's okay.
So my eyes are irritated. And it was just kind of like, here I am now, this single mom, dealing with this motherhood thing that I don't know what I'm supposed to do or nothing like that, because my mother, my biological mother, I was, things are different now. I'll say that, right? But I was abandoned by both my mother, my biological mother, and my biological father. And so I didn't have that mother experience, that mother exposure, that mother to go to and say, hey,
what am I supposed to do? My baby won't stop crying, or whatever, right?
You came to the realization that motherhood is a whole lot more than what you thought it would be, right? So then you start adapting to motherhood, and you're thinking like, okay, we're going to do this again. It might be a good idea to do this again. So now you've got to deal with the disappointment and the devastation of some bad news that you're not going to be able to have another child. Like, what was that like for you? Because postpartum depression in itself is a beast, but that's another mental and emotional issue that is just that's just as devastating. Like, you was getting it back to back, girl.
So I kid you not, like there were days during like the postpartum depression period where literally the only reason I got out of bed is because I had a kid to feed. Like if I wouldn't have had her, I don't know what would have ever happened to me, truthfully. I was in such a bad place. And then like, you know, we got pregnant. Like we had planned it. So I went off the pill. We planned to have this baby. And a month later I was pregnant. Like we didn't even have to try, really. It just happened, right? We were young and healthy. And aside, when I was in my early 20s, I found out that I have rheumatoid arthritis. So I have some health issues, but nothing that contributes to fertility problems, right? So it was kind of a shock when it came so easily the first time. And then all of a sudden it just doesn't. So we tried and I'd go to the doctor and be like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know what's going on. We've been trying for 6 months. Like we got pregnant almost instantly before. What's going on? My body never really went back to normal either. Like I didn't, I never really returned to like normal female cycles or anything like that. So I kept going to the doctor saying like, this isn't normal. Something's wrong with my body. Like physically, there's got to be something that's not right. Like, so they ran tests and they did blood work and they checked hormone levels and they did all this stuff. And they were like, yeah, it's like on the low end of normal. Well, clearly the low end of normal is enough for my body to have significant issues. Right. So it was hard though. Like I swear to you, every month, like you sit there and go, okay, maybe this is the month I'm pregnant. Right. And every time it wasn't. Like I don't know how many days I was like, I'm just gonna crawl into bed because I was like just depressed about it. It's so discouraging. And then it's so hard to like love and respect your body either, because you're like, you're betraying me. This is what I want, and you're not doing what I want. And then there's like I have had some pretty big like self-consciousness issues in my life. Like I don't ever remember even as a child not being self-conscious. So it's been kind of a deep-seated thing for me, right? So I try to work on my mindset around it and whatever. And after I had Paige, I really struggled to like lose the baby weight and things like that. And so I found out later that I have PCOS, and that's what contributed to my secondary infertility. But that also explains the struggle to lose the baby weight and the like. I spent most of I had Paige when I was 23, and I spent most of my 20s feeling like I was in menopause, like night sweats and all, like you just be standing there and all of a sudden you're just like dripping in sweat and can't sleep and hot flashes. And like they actually at one point thought maybe I was going into early menopause, like at 25 years old. And I'm going like, this is not supposed to happen. Right. So it was kind of like a multitude of things, but then there's a huge mix of emotions that comes with like because your hormones are off in the first place. And then there's like the mental health component of the emotions that come with all of it. It's a big combination of things, right? Because like your hormones play into your emotions when you're a woman, but then there's also the mental health stuff. Like, you know, I spent a long time being like angry at my body for not doing what I know it's capable of doing because it did it once. And then I spent a lot of time beating myself up in my head going, well, maybe I should just follow this starvation diet or this starvation diet or this, because maybe that will fix my fertility issue. I had a doctor, I kid you not, a resident doctor tell me, well, if you tried harder to lose weight, maybe you'd be able to get what you want.
Wow.
Right. So not only am I upset because I can't get pregnant, I'm struggling to lose weight and trying my best to do the things I can do. At this point, nobody knew I had PCOS either. And then I have a doctor say that to me. I left the doctor's office crying so hard I couldn't even breathe.
Girl, okay, let me hop in here because so you know, I have this t-shirt that says I cuss, I throw hands, and I love God, right? I might not have thrown hands that day, but I probably would have cussed, right? Because that was so disrespectful.
So in my house, we try really hard to, like, we don't talk about dieting. We talk about, we eat healthy to fuel our bodies, to make our bodies feel good. We don't talk about dieting. We don't talk about what size our clothes are. You know, when my kids go for their checkups and they get weighed and measured, it's like, awesome, look how strong your body is and how much your body's growing to support you. That's great. We don't look at it like it's a negative, because I don't want there's enough crap out there that's going to teach my daughter to hate her body. She doesn't need to hear it at home. She needs to hear the opposite to combat the crap that's out there.
Exactly. And you know what my motto is? F them people.
Right? We're the biggest critics in our own life, I find, and I'm really bad for that. And I struggle with the self-consciousness and like, I look at pictures same as you, where I'm like, I thought I was fat in high school, and I look at the pictures and I'm like, I would give anything to be that fat now. Right. So I'm trying really hard to focus on the fact that, like, my body rearranged itself to grow two healthy children. Right. So I guess where my kind of like story leads to is, you know, so we were kind of established. Paige was getting to a point where she was more independent, having play dates, and we were kind of like, you know, like, having a baby and postpartum depression is hard on a marriage too, right? Like, you lose your groove, you don't spend as much one-on-one time. So we were starting to get back in that position too, where we had a little bit more like of our own time and stuff, because she was older, right? Going to play dates and playing with her friends outside, and we were starting to get there. And then I find out I'm pregnant. Now, granted, we were excited and over the moon, of course, but we were like, this is like being first-time parents again. Like, we don't know what we're doing. So it was really good. I had some minor complications when I had Paige, but it was no big deal. Bounced back, was fine. So didn't expect any issues with Slade either. So I worked hard throughout my pregnancy to continue to grow my business. And when I got pregnant, I was kind of on the cusp of, okay, I'm a VA by myself. Do I start bringing more people on, or do I just stop taking clients? Like, what do I want to do here? Because I was kind of at a crossroads. Well, when I got pregnant, I went, well, that kind of makes my decision for me. I need to bring on other people so that my clients continue to get what they need while I need to be off to heal from having this baby. So I went away to have Slade, thought, oh, like, I'll be back in a week 2 tops, like, get on my feet, right? He's a newborn. He sleeps all the time. Paige goes to school. It'll be fine. Yeah. It was fine until I suffered a massive postpartum hemorrhage and took 6 months to get healed and back on my feet. It took 6 months for my body to heal itself. Not to mention, this happened all as the world, like, Slade was born a week early. So we got home, and 3 days later, the world went into lockdown. So
oh my gosh.
They sent me home with like half. They discharged me with half the blood volume I'm supposed to have, and said, you cannot be alone with your children. You cannot drive. You cannot do any of this. And I'm going, okay, that's right. Yeah, you bet. Okay. Sure. So, yeah, you bet I'll follow all your rules. So I went home, and because of COVID, they had said to me, like, we ideally would give you a blood transfusion, but with COVID, they were too scared, because they said, like, we never tested for stuff like this. We don't know if it's passed through transfusion, or like, what if we give you a transfusion and then you get COVID and something happens to you, right? There was too many unknowns, so they couldn't. So it took over 6 months for my body to regenerate the blood I was losing. And it was scary. Like, Slade was born, and 2 hours later, I had a C-section the first time. So I have doctors coming and checking, and I'm going, is this normal? Like, is something wrong? And they're like, oh, you're just bleeding a little more than you should. Okay, no big deal. I mean, I was a nurse. I didn't think it was a big deal. And then all of a sudden, my room has 3 doctors, 12 nurses, and they're like shoving Blaine and the baby out of the way. And I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, you need to go for emergency surgery. Slade was like not even 3 hours old. It was terrifying. Like, and I was like, well, can I say goodbye to my baby? Like, am I coming back from this? Or like, what's going on? It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. So the last thing I remember is like Blaine standing there holding Slade, like, looks like terrified. Like, what am I supposed to do with this newborn? And like looking at my son going, like, I hope that I see you guys again, because I don't know. Like, they told me an hour ago this wasn't a big deal. And now they're running me down the hallway to the operating room. So which one is it? So it was pretty scary. And then I spent a few days in the hospital and came home, but like the energy levels was like nothing. I've never been that tired in my life. And I mean, I think you're tired with a newborn, but tired with a newborn with not enough blood volume is a totally different kind of thing. And I didn't realize quite how, like, postpartum hemorrhage happens for sure, but the stats on it, it's not super common. But it's unfortunate that any of the treatments that were available, I couldn't have either. And then not only did it took 6 months to get back on my feet because I continued having issues when I got home. But because of COVID, they considered the surgery I needed non-essential. So we just had to wait for my body to sort it out. So I said to my doctor, I'm like, so I'm just supposed to sit here and hope that I don't pass out when I have my 2 kids. I was like, what am I supposed to do?
Wow.
It was like, don't get me wrong, our healthcare system in Canada is fantastic typically, but COVID really threw everything for a loop. It was just like, so needless to say, like, I come back, and luckily I'm super lucky that all of my clients are fantastic. Like, when I came back, I just said, look, this is what happened. I never foresaw any of this. And everybody was like, do the minimum that you can do to stay on your feet. Like, we'll be here. Don't worry. So luckily I had fantastic clients, and I had a couple of fantastic support people in place that could help with some of the overflow stuff that had to get done, which was great. But you know, it was definitely a scary time for sure. And lots of uncertainty. Like, having a baby is a big deal in the first place. Never mind when they send you home and basically go, like, fend for yourself and good luck. Hopefully you feel better soon. With no end in sight.
Feel better soon.
Feel better soon. Don't pass out while you take care of your kids.
Woo! Insane. So that is traumatic.
Just a little.
That was a lot of trauma. And interestingly, I didn't know it at the time, but I discovered that I had developed trauma around having my daughter as well, because my pregnancy, you know, my daughter's father, listen, well, let me preface by saying, me and my daughter's father, I call him the Fasha, my baby daddy. Like, we have a great relationship, right? We do now. Yeah. Back then, when we were kids, when we were young, it was very, very turbulent because we were both very broken. And we both had to take ownership for the parts that we played in our relationship for us to be able to forgive each other and heal properly. So let me preface with saying that, because I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm dragging him or any of that or whatever. I'm just speaking factually, right? Totally. And so with him checking out, it was just kind of like, I went through this pregnancy alone, even down to delivering my daughter. It was just like how you said, the type A personality, how you think that, okay, this is how life's going to be. We're going to be a family. We're going to be this, that, and that, and the other, and completely shattered. Like, you know, and it was just, it happened nothing like I thought it would be, how I thought it should have been, any of that. And so I was definitely devastated. I was depleted. I was defeated, damn near destroyed by it, whatever. And so that was that trauma from the abandonment during the pregnancy, having to go through pregnancy alone. He was there for her birth, but even in that, it was just kind of like,
but it's not the same. It's not what you expect, right? You expect that lovey, perfect family photo where you're snuggled up together, right? It's not the same.
It wasn't that at all. And so it made me feel like, yeah, I'm never having kids again, because I'm never going through that shit again. I'm never going to experience that again. I had a history of broken and abusive relationships. And as a matter of fact, I come from 4 generations of broken and abusive relationships and single parenting. And so, you know, for me, I was, you know, on this whole, yeah, we changing our history type of deal, right? Because
I was just going to ask that. Were you like of the mindset where you're like, this is going to change with me? And then it was such a tough situation.
Right. And so like, that's not going to be my daughter. It's that brokenness, that abusiveness. And so being, you know, all those years of broken in abusive relationships, and all of the relationships that I had gotten into being abusive, my mind was just kind of like, the next relationship I get in is going to be abusive. So I'm not having no kids. Matter of fact, I'm not getting into no relationship. I was like, I'm not getting into
easier to avoid it.
Right? No relationship, no kids, because I can't allow my daughter to see me be abused. I can't allow her to see me be mishandled and mistreated by a man. And I was just sharing on in the in one of the Superwoman interviews like a week or so ago, how I've realized in hindsight that me guarding and protecting myself, I did the right thing for the wrong reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I really deprived my daughter of the opportunity to see what it would look like on the other side. But in fairness to me, I didn't believe at that time, and I didn't have confidence at that time that I would experience anything different than I had experienced already. So it was just kind of like, that was my compromise. I didn't think about it as robbing her of an opportunity. I saw it as me protecting her, right? Yeah. So keeping her from hurt and harm and devastation like I experienced. And so it was kind of like a catch-22, if you will.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what, as a mom, that's always the goal, right? Like, you want your kids to have a better experience than you had, and you want them to have opportunities, and you want them to have that like positive life, right? Like, there's nothing we strive more than we want our kids to have the best life they can have. So it makes sense that as a mom, your reaction was like, well, I'm going to take this out of the equation so that this doesn't impact her life. Right. I think as a mom, that totally makes sense. But then I guess hindsight's 2020, right? You look back at it and go, oh, wow.
Exactly. And so I don't have any guilt around it, around the decision. But again, like you said, the hindsight, it's just kind of like, I see it now, but I was doing the best. I was doing what I felt was best for her at that time. And honestly, it was what was best for her at that time, even though it wasn't complete, if that makes sense. Like, and so, but yeah, enough about me.
Let's get a young mom too, right? Like, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Like, I was
19 years old. Like, I know at 19, we all think that we can conquer the world and we know all there is to know, but that's still young. Like you said, like, you guys were kids, right? Really, in the grand scheme of life, you're still a kid at 19.
Pretty much. I want to dive into the mental and the emotional part of that for you, because like I was saying, that was trauma, that was traumatic, right? And as women, we, and I was just mentioning how life comes to beat our ass, right?
Totally.
And we're like, yeah, no, F that, I'm the type that's gonna fight back, right? And so how did you fight back? Talk to us about you fighting back so that you can get your life.
Are we talking about after Slade was born? That piece of the puzzle? Yeah. So honestly, I guess, so a really brief side note, I have a sister who's like super chronically ill. So I know that patient advocacy has to come from yourself or from a family member, right? So when this, when I started dealing with this and it was becoming like a chronic issue that wasn't resolving, like, they say like, oh, postpartum, 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, you're back on your feet. Yeah, no, like 6 to 8 weeks rolled around and I was still as sick as I was the day I came home. So I phoned and I pushed and I was like, I went back to the doctor. I took myself in and I basically said, I'm not leaving until somebody gives me a solution to this problem. Like, I can't live my life like this. How am I supposed to care for my 2 children, run a business, and have any semblance of a normal life living like this? So I guess just being able to stand up and advocate for myself and say, basically, I'm not gonna sit here and keep doing this. Like, this, it doesn't have to be like this. There's a solution here. But over time, things did improve. Luckily, I have a fantastic family doctor who never let me slip through the cracks. He stayed on top of it. He was all over every test there was that he could stay on top of to help me. So it was really great to have somebody in my corner that was fighting for me too. And then honestly, the biggest thing, like, I had to lean on the people around me, and it's really hard for me to ask for help and hard to accept it. independent to a fault. So it was even hard for me to say to Blaine, hey, look, I need you to get up with the kids so that I can go lay down, or I need you to do this. It was hard to do that. Like, he had to say to me, you need to go lay down. We're fine. Go. Right. I struggle to I put unnecessary pressure on myself.
Right.
So it's tough for sure. But it really, honestly, it really took time, and it took some mindset shift going, like, to think even really that 2 weeks would be enough to be back on my feet after having a baby is a little unrealistic in the first place. Right. So something that I've worked on over the last year is like having those realistic boundaries in business, and making a realistic to-do list day to day. Like, I have 2 kids at home, one who requires way more attention than the other. I'm not going to be able to get 27 things done in one day. It's just not going to happen. So I guess some of it came with like a little bit of tough love to myself, going like, you need to get realistic here, or you're going to burn yourself out, one of the two. Like, so you pick. And that's where the need to kind of continue to grow as a team came too, where I went like, I want to work with all these people, but I can't do this by myself. So that's where I started going, okay, I need to find good people that I trust. And it's been great. Like, I've been lucky to find a few really good people to work with.
You talked about being a VA, and your business, and how you had to get people to come in and help you. What are you offering in your business?
So I am a virtual assistant, and so my team and I focus on quite a wide variety of services. So we can help with social media management. We can help with blogging, and then regular admin stuff too, like data entry or research or organization. Like, we're kind of like a jack of all trades team. We do a little bit of everything. So that's where the benefit comes to having people with different strong skills, where we can say, hey, this person's really good at this person's really good at this, so you know exactly who is going to handle each project. End of the spectrum, something that I focus on solely on my own outside of the team is like kind of back end business systems, organizational processes, standard operating procedures, that kind of stuff. I truly believe that in order for your business to grow, you need to have the organizational systems in place before that happens to make the growth easy and support that growth. So I focus a lot on that.
So it's like a full service agency.
It for sure is.
Gotcha. So what makes you a superwoman, Liz?
Well, you've pointed out a couple of different times. I've had some pretty significant traumas in my life. And I mean, we just kind of touched on the tip of the iceberg of my life, right? I have a whole other pieces of my life we never talked about today. So I would say that I have been faced repeatedly in my life with different types of trauma. And while there have been times where the trauma almost won, I've managed to kick it and say, no, this isn't what I want my life to look like. And to make the positive changes to fight back against that and say, hey, no, this is not what my life is going to look like. This is what I want my life to look like for me, my family, my children. So I guess that, like, being able to repeatedly move past these traumas, and basically not let them win. There's a lot of things in my life where it would have been easier to let the trauma win and take it. Way easier to just let it happen. But where I would be sitting today if I had done that, I don't know. Right. So I might not be sitting here at all. I don't know.
So true. So true.
So I think just that, like, never losing that little piece of me that went, you know what? I might take a day or two and get upset and let myself feel the trauma and be upset about it or whatever. And then, you know, having the ability to then say, okay, that's enough of that. It's time to push past it now.
Wow. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. And there's a common thread when I ask all the superwomen that question, but at the same time, it always tends to be a different answer, which is awesome, because, you know, we're all so unique, you know what I'm saying? And we all have our perspective on life, you know, and what it's dealt to us. And so my actual last question is, where can everybody find you on these social media streets?
Find me on Facebook. My business page name is under Alyssa Burgoyne. So is my profile. And then I'm also on LinkedIn and on Instagram.
Okay. So Alyssa, can you spell that out for everybody? Like
Alyssa. And then my last name is Burgoyne. And all of my social media handles are just under my own name.
Gotcha.
I see a rebrand coming in my future because that doesn't support the agency style model I'm working in now. But it's on the list of things to do.
Listen, rebranding is completely an in thing because I've definitely had to rebrand quite a few times. So this was wonderful. Like and I learned some new stuff about you today for sure. And it was just great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like it just helps us to connect even more.
Totally.
Like, and I would like to think that the Superwoman story that you shared today is definitely going to encourage another Superwoman, inspire another Superwoman to keep going, like, to fight back, to stand on her tens and tell life, yeah, not today. Tell the enemy of her good, yeah, not today.
I've always really hesitated to put myself out there and talk about traumas and things like that. There's like a stigma against it, right? But when you asked me to come, I was like, you know what? I was like, even if I remember what it felt like in those darkest days and how it felt, and I kind of went, you know what? If one person listens to this and goes, I'm not alone, then it's worth it to be a little bit vulnerable for a little bit, right?
I hope you were blessed by Alyssa being here today. And I want you to come back next Wednesday because we're here with another Superwoman story every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so come back for Superwoman Wednesday next week. Talk